Do you remember me,
Shouldn't have come
Cowboy?
back here.
I'm the Apache
I have
girl you
every right
saved.
to
I've
be
come to
here.
be
This
your
is my
wife.
land.
The wind carried the dry scent of sagebrush and wild grass, rustling through the sparse trees and shrubs. In the distance, a small figure ran desperately, her feet kicking up tiny clouds of dust. She was a young Apache girl, no older than 16, her dark hair tangled from the night's journey, her clothes torn in several places. Her chest heaved with exhaustion, and her eyes, wide with fear, scanned the horizon as if searching for a miracle. Her name was Nayeli, and she had been trying to gather firewood near the edge of the canyon when she heard the distant rumble of hooves. Thinking it was a hunting party from her own community, she did not run, but soon realized it was not them at all. These riders were strangers, moving quickly and with purpose, their faces shadowed by wide-brimmed hats. Nayeli's heart pounded in her chest as she realized the danger. She knew she could not outrun them in her weakened state, and she had no weapon with her. The only option was to climb higher, to reach the rocks at the canyon's edge, where she might hide until they passed. She began to scramble up the jagged rocks, her small hands scrabbling for purchase on the rough surface. One misstep could mean a dangerous fall, and she felt the sting of small cuts as the stones scraped against her skin. Panic surged through her, and for a moment she froze, unsure if she could continue. It was in that frozen moment that she heard the sudden, clear sound of galloping hooves coming from behind her. The riders were approaching faster than she had expected. Nayeli's breath caught in her throat, and she looked around for any place to hide, but the canyon offered little refuge. Just as despair began to overwhelm her, a figure appeared at the top of a nearby hill. He was tall and broad-shouldered, dressed in worn denim and a leather vest, with a wide-brimmed hat tilted just enough to cast his face in shadow. But there was something about him that seemed different. He was not one of the riders chasing her. His horse was steady, his movements calm, yet there was a sense of urgency in the way he urged it forward. Nayeli's heart leapt with a glimmer of hope, though she did not understand why she trusted this stranger. The cowboy's name was Jack, and he had been riding through the plains early that morning, checking his cattle and making sure the fences around his ranch held strong. He had always been alert to the dangers of the land, the sudden storms, wild animals, and the occasional bandit or troublemaker. But he had never expected to find a young girl in such peril. When he saw her climbing the rocks and the riders in pursuit, he acted without hesitation. He pushed his horse forward, faster than he had ever ridden, closing the distance between him and the girl. "Hold on, don't stop now," he shouted, though his voice was carried away by the wind. Nayeli's eyes met his for a brief moment, and something unspoken passed between them, a promise of safety, a signal that she was not alone. With renewed determination, she scrambled higher, her legs shaking with effort, her hands raw from the rough stones. Jack reached the top of the hill, urging his horse forward as he positioned himself between Nayeli and the approaching riders. The strangers slowed as they approached, startled by the sudden appearance of the cowboy. He did not draw a weapon, but his presence was enough to give them pause. He shouted at them, his voice firm, commanding them to leave. To his surprise and relief, the riders hesitated, muttered to each other, and then turned their horses away, disappearing into the distance. Nayeli collapsed onto the ground, panting, tears streaming down her face. She could not believe her eyes. She was safe. Jack dismounted quickly and ran to her side. "Are you all right?" he asked, kneeling down so that he could meet her gaze. His voice was gentle now, filled with concern rather than command. Nayeli could only nod, her voice lost in the whirlwind of fear and relief that had overtaken her. He offered her a hand, and after a moment's hesitation, she took it. The warmth of his grip was steadying, grounding her after the terror of the last few minutes. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice barely audible. Jack smiled softly, brushing a strand of her hair away from her face. "You're safe now," he said simply. "That's all that matters." He led her down from the rocks to a flatter area where the horse could be steady and safe. She followed him, trusting him completely, though she barely knew him. Something in his demeanor, the calm strength he radiated, made her feel that everything would be okay. Once they were at a safer distance, Jack helped her sit and examined her minor scrapes and bruises. He used a small first aid kit he carried for emergencies, cleaning her wounds and bandaging them with careful hands. Nayeli watched him, amazed at how naturally he seemed to know what to do. She had never been treated with such care by a stranger, and the kindness in his actions touched her deeply. "You must be very brave to climb those rocks like that," Jack said, trying to lighten the moment. Nayeli managed a small smile, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. She nodded, thinking of the fear she had felt and how she had somehow found the strength to keep going. "I had to," she said softly. "I had no choice." Jack nodded in understanding, recognizing the courage it must have taken to face such danger alone. As the sun climbed higher, Jack offered her a drink of water and some food he had packed. They ate in silence for a while, the only sounds being the soft wind and the distant calls of birds. Nayeli felt a strange sense of comfort in his presence. She realized that though she had been terrified moments ago, she now felt safe and protected. Jack, too, felt a sense of responsibility for her, a desire to ensure that she returned to safety and that no harm came to her again. When it was clear that she could walk without falling, Jack led her toward the nearby Apache settlement. Along the way, he talked to her about the land, about the animals, and about simple lessons of survival. Nayeli listened intently, absorbing every word. She was grateful not only for his help but for the wisdom he shared. It was as if the brief moments they had together carried more weight than hours spent in ordinary life. Finally, they reached the edge of her community. Nayeli's family rushed to meet her, their faces etched with worry and relief. She ran into her mother's arms, sobbing and laughing at the same time. Jack stayed back, nodding politely to the family, allowing them to take over. Though his part in the story had ended, he could not leave without seeing her safe and surrounded by those who loved her. Nayeli's father stepped forward and thanked him, offering a hand in respect. Jack shook it firmly, humbly accepting their gratitude. Before he mounted his horse to leave, Nayeli turned to him. "Will I see you again?" she asked softly, her voice filled with a mixture of hope and fear. Jack looked at her for a long moment, considering. "Maybe," he said, tipping his hat. "Life has a way of bringing people back together when it's meant to be." With that, he rode away, disappearing into the wide plains, leaving Nayeli with a memory that would stay with her forever. Even as the day went on, Nayeli could not stop thinking about the cowboy who had saved her life. His courage, his kindness, and the calm confidence with which he faced danger made an impression on her young heart. She told herself that one day she would meet him again, though she did not know how or when. The encounter had changed her in ways she could not yet understand. It had taught her that there were people in the world willing to help without expecting anything in return, and that sometimes a single moment of bravery could alter the course of someone's life forever. And so, the story of that day became a cherished memory for Nayeli, a memory that would guide her, inspire her, and one day, lead her back to the man who had saved her, the cowboy who had unknowingly become a part of her story. Years passed since that unforgettable day when Nayeli, the young Apache girl, had been saved by the cowboy. Time moved slowly on the plains, but her memory of that moment never faded. Every time she thought of it, a rush of emotions filled her chest. Relief, gratitude, awe, and a quiet longing she didn't fully understand. She often recalled the strength in his eyes, the calm way he had faced danger, and the kindness in his hands as he tended to her scraped skin. Nayeli knew that meeting him had changed her forever, but she also knew that life rarely gave second chances without effort. During those years, Nayeli grew into a strong and determined young woman. She learned the skills necessary to survive and thrive in her world: tracking, gathering, riding horses, and understanding the ways of nature. Her parents watched her closely, proud of her resilience but cautious of the dangers that surrounded their lives. Nayeli never forgot the lesson of that day. Bravery and trust were rare gifts, and those who possessed them could alter the lives of others in ways no one could foresee. Despite the years, Nayeli felt a pull toward the cowboy she had never met again. The memory of his calm voice and steady hands became a guiding light in her life. Whenever she faced difficulty, she would close her eyes and imagine him beside her, offering support and courage. It was not just gratitude she felt. It was a quiet admiration, a recognition of the way a single act of kindness could leave a lasting mark. Her friends noticed it in her expressions, the way her eyes would grow distant when she spoke of that day. She could not explain it fully, even to herself, but the memory of the cowboy had become a part of her identity. One morning, as the sun rose behind the mountains, Nayeli decided that she could no longer remain silent about her feelings and desires. She had to find him. The thought was both thrilling and terrifying. How would she locate a man whose life she had barely glimpsed? What if he didn't remember her? What if he had moved on completely? Still, the pull in her heart was too strong to ignore. Nayeli prepared for the journey carefully, gathering supplies, studying the land, and speaking with elders in her community who had knowledge of the surrounding territories. Her family noticed her preparations and expressed concern. "Nayeli, are you sure this is wise?" her mother asked, worry etched on her face. "It has been many years. What if you find him and things are not as you remember?" Nayeli smiled softly, a mixture of determination and reassurance in her eyes. "Mother, I must try," she said. "He saved my life once. I need to find him again to see him and to tell him that he mattered to me. I need to thank him properly." Her parents exchanged glances, recognizing the same courage and spirit in her that had always guided her through challenges. Though they were hesitant, they ultimately supported her decision, offering blessings and advice for a safe journey. Nayeli set out early one morning, riding her horse across the plains. The wind blew through her hair, carrying the scents of wildflowers and fresh grass. As she traveled, she reflected on the years since their meeting. She had grown stronger, wiser, and more confident, but the memory of the cowboy remained a tender, persistent presence in her heart. She spoke aloud to herself occasionally, recounting the moments of her rescue, as if practicing what she might say when she finally saw him again. Each mile she traveled brought both excitement and nervous anticipation. Meanwhile, the cowboy, Jack, continued his life on the ranch. The years had been filled with hard work, long days of tending to cattle, maintaining fences, and caring for the land that sustained him. Jack had never forgotten the girl he had rescued, but with the passage of time, he had learned to accept that their paths might never cross again. He sometimes wondered what had become of her, imagining her safe, happy, and strong. Though he carried the memory quietly, life demanded his attention, and he focused on his responsibilities with diligence. One afternoon, as Jack repaired a broken fence near the edge of his property, he noticed a lone figure approaching from a distance. The rider moved with confidence, yet there was a gentleness in her posture, a careful attention to the horse beneath her. Something about her reminded him of a memory he had tried to tuck away, a memory of a small, frightened girl who had needed his help years ago. As she drew closer, Jack's heart skipped a beat. The features were familiar though matured, her dark hair now longer, her face showing the strength and resilience she had developed over the years. Nayeli slowed her horse as she approached, her own heart pounding with anticipation and nervousness. When she finally came close enough to see him clearly, she felt a mix of relief and wonder. Jack stopped his work and removed his hat, revealing a face lined slightly by time but still strong and kind. Their eyes met, and in that instant recognition sparked. Nayeli's breath caught. "Do you remember me?" she asked softly, her voice trembling slightly. Jack's expression shifted from surprise to realization. Slowly, a smile spread across his face as he took a step closer. "Nay, Ellie," he said, his voice filled with disbelief and awe. "It's really you," she nodded, tears welling up in her eyes. The years melted away in that moment, leaving only the connection that had begun on the day he had saved her life. Ellie dismounted carefully, her hands shaking slightly as she reached for his. The warmth and steadiness of his grip brought her a sense of comfort she had longed for during the years apart. They stood together silently for a moment, each absorbing the presence of the other, acknowledging the unspoken bond between them. Once the initial shock of recognition passed, they began to talk. Ellie recounted the years since their first meeting, sharing stories of her growth, her challenges, and the ways she had remembered that day. Jack listened intently, his eyes never leaving hers. He asked questions about her family, her community, and the journey that had brought her to his ranch. Each word she spoke strengthened the connection between them, weaving a tapestry of shared memory, gratitude, and emerging affection. Jack, in turn, shared pieces of his life, the work on the ranch, the people he had met, the quiet days and long nights that shaped him. Ellie listened, fascinated by the way he described his life, seeing in him the same integrity and courage that had compelled him to save her all those years ago. The conversation flowed easily, though each of them was aware of the gravity of the moment. They were no longer the same children who had first met. They had grown, matured, and carried the weight of their experiences. Yet in that moment, they recognized something timeless and enduring between them. As the sun began to dip toward the horizon, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and purples, Ellie and Jack walked toward a nearby clearing. The land stretched wide and open before them, the wind carrying the scent of earth and grass. They spoke of hopes and dreams, of courage and trust, and of the significance of small acts that could change the course of a life. Ellie realized that her gratitude had grown into something deeper, a desire to be near him, to share her life with him in some way. Jack, too, felt a quiet pull, a recognition that the bond they shared was rare and meaningful. By the time night fell, they found themselves sitting by a small fire Jack had made. The stars shone brilliantly overhead, filling the sky with countless points of light. Ellie felt a sense of peace she had not known in years. She spoke softly of the day he had saved her, of how it had inspired her to be brave, strong, and compassionate. Jack listened, moved by the sincerity and depth of her words. He realized that the act of helping her had created a ripple in both their lives, one that had grown and deepened over time. Before parting for the night, Ellie expressed her hope to stay close, to learn from him, and to understand him better. Jack agreed, recognizing that their reunion was not an accident but a meaningful continuation of their story. They made plans to meet the next day, each carrying a sense of anticipation and quiet joy. Ellie returned to the small guest space Jack offered her, her mind alive with reflection and dreams. For the first time in years, she felt a sense of belonging and purpose beyond her own community. The night passed slowly, filled with the gentle sounds of wind rustling through the grass and the occasional call of distant animals. Ellie lay awake for some time, thinking of the cowboy who had saved her, now sitting not far away, unaware of the full measure of the impact he had on her life. She felt a deep gratitude, a quiet admiration, and an emerging affection she could not yet name. Jack, too, spent the night reflecting, realizing that life had given him a second chance to connect with someone who had touched him in a profound and unforgettable way. The next morning, the sun rose once again over the plains, signaling the start of a new chapter in their lives. Both Ellie and Jack awoke with a sense of purpose and anticipation, knowing that their reunion was the beginning of something significant. The memory of the past, the challenges they had overcome individually, and the bond they shared now would guide them forward. Though the journey ahead remained uncertain, both felt a quiet certainty that they were meant to be part of each other's story. And so, the years of separation ended, replaced by a meeting that carried the weight of memory, gratitude, and the possibility of love. Nayeli had found the cowboy who had saved her life, and in doing so, she discovered a connection that would shape her future in ways she had never imagined. The story of her journey, the courage she had shown, and the kindness he had offered set the stage for a deep and meaningful bond, one that neither time nor distance could diminish. The morning sun bathed the plains in a warm, golden light, and the quiet of the ranch was broken only by the gentle sounds of animals stirring and the soft creak of wooden gates. Nayeli rose early, feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. Today would be the day she would speak with the cowboy, Jack, about the journey she had taken, the gratitude she carried, and the emotions that had grown quietly in her heart over the years. She dressed simply, her clothes practical for the plains, yet she brushed her hair neatly, wanting to appear both respectful and presentable. The thought of seeing him again made her pulse quicken. Jack was already outside, checking the fences and the water troughs for the animals. His movements were steady and precise, showing the years of experience he had gained working the land. Yet beneath that routine, there was a subtle tension in his posture, an awareness that something important was about to unfold. He knew Nayeli had arrived the day before, but he had not yet spoken with her in depth. He felt anticipation, curiosity, and an unexpected nervousness. Though he had saved her years ago, their reunion carried a weight neither of them fully understood yet. When Nayeli approached, the distance between them seemed charged with unspoken emotions. Jack looked up, and the moment their eyes met, time seemed to pause. There was recognition, relief, and wonder all wrapped together. Nayeli took a deep breath, steadying herself before stepping closer. "Jack," she said softly, "thank you for seeing me yesterday, and for everything you did for me all those years ago." Her voice carried a quiet strength, a mixture of gratitude and something more, something she had not fully admitted even to herself. Jack nodded slowly, a smile spreading across his face. "Nayeli, I remember that day very clearly," he said. "I've never forgotten it. I often wondered where you were, how you had grown, and if you were safe." His tone was sincere, gentle, and filled with a curiosity that matched her own. Nayeli felt warmth in his words, and her shoulders relaxed. The tension that had gripped her chest began to ease, replaced by a sense of comfort she had not felt in years. They walked together toward a quiet spot by a small stream that ran along the edge of the ranch. The water sparkled in the sunlight, and the soft sound of its movement created a peaceful backdrop for their conversation. Nayeli sat on a large rock near the water's edge, her hands clasped in her lap, while Jack took a seat on the ground opposite her. For a moment, neither spoke, allowing the silence to hold them in a shared space of recognition and reflection. Finally, Nayeli began to recount her journey. She told Jack about the years that had passed since their first meeting, about the skills she had learned to survive, the challenges she had faced in her community, and the ways she had remembered his bravery and kindness. She spoke of the moments when she had felt alone or uncertain, and how the memory of him had given her strength. Jack listened intently, his eyes never leaving hers. Each word she spoke seemed to bring the past into the present, creating a bridge between the girl he had saved and the strong young woman before him now. "I never thought I'd have the chance to thank you properly," Nayeli said, her voice soft but earnest. "You saved my life, Jack. You gave me a chance to grow, to learn, and to find my own courage. I wanted you to know that." Her words hung in the air, filled with honesty and emotion. Jack's eyes glistened slightly, and he reached out to touch her hand gently. "Nayeli," he said, "you don't need to thank me. I did what anyone would have done. But hearing you say that, it means more than I can put into words." The conversation turned to lighter topics, and they began to share memories of the day she had been rescued. Naeli described the fear she had felt climbing the rocks, the way the wind had whipped against her face, and the adrenaline that had kept her moving despite the danger. Jack smiled, recalling how he had felt when he first saw her struggling, the determination that had surged through him to help her. They laughed softly at small details, like the way her hair had blown into her eyes or how she had almost slipped on a loose stone. The laughter was easy and genuine, a sign that their bond was growing stronger. As the morning passed into afternoon, Naeli spoke of her life since that day. She described the moments of pride, the lessons she had learned, and the small triumphs that had built her confidence. Jack shared stories of his own life on the ranch, of the challenges he faced with the animals, the hard work required to maintain the land, and the quiet moments he cherished when the day's work was done. Through their conversation, a mutual respect and admiration became evident. Naeli saw Jack not just as the man who had saved her, but as someone who lived with integrity, patience, and quiet strength. Jack, in turn, recognized the courage, intelligence, and resilience that Naeli had developed over the years. The sun moved lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the plains. The warmth of the day seemed to mirror the warmth building between them. Naeli found herself thinking about how much she trusted him, how safe she felt in his presence, and how much she wanted to share more of her life with him. Jack noticed the thoughtful look in her eyes, and he too felt a connection that went beyond mere gratitude. There was a bond forming, a recognition that their lives had intertwined in a meaningful way, and that this reunion was the beginning of something deeper. They decided to take a walk along the stream, the water reflecting the golden light of the setting sun. As they walked, Naeli spoke of her hopes for the future, her desire to continue learning, and her wish to live a life filled with purpose and kindness. Jack listened, occasionally offering gentle guidance or sharing insights from his own experiences. Each step they took together strengthened their connection, and the conversation flowed naturally, like two people discovering a shared language of trust, respect, and understanding. At one point, they stopped by a large tree that provided shade from the late afternoon sun. Naeli leaned against its trunk, and Jack stood nearby, both of them silent for a moment. The quiet was comfortable, a sign that they could exist together without the need for constant words. Naeli's heart was full of gratitude and a quiet hope, and Jack felt a sense of responsibility and admiration that deepened with every passing moment. It was clear that their bond had grown beyond the simple act of a rescue. It had become a connection rooted in shared humanity, respect, and emerging affection. As evening approached, they returned to the ranch house, where Jack prepared a small meal over a fire. Naeli helped, enjoying the simple act of working alongside him. They spoke of ordinary things, the land, the animals, the weather, but even these mundane topics were colored with significance because they shared them together. The sense of companionship was comforting, and the laughter that punctuated their conversation made the long years of separation seem less important. After the meal, they sat outside, watching the stars emerge in the night sky. The air was cool and clear, carrying the scent of earth and grass. Naeli felt a sense of peace she had not experienced in years. She realized that the bond she shared with Jack was something rare and precious, built not only on the memory of a single act of bravery, but also on the trust and understanding they had developed during their reunion. Jack, too, felt a deep sense of connection, recognizing that their lives had intersected in a way that was meaningful and enduring. Before they went asleep that night, Naeli expressed her gratitude once more. "Jack," she said softly, "I came here to thank you, but I feel like I've found something even more important, someone who understands me, who sees me, and who cares. I want to be close to you, to learn from you, and to share my life with you in some way." Jack reached for her hand, holding it gently, and nodded. "Naeli, I feel the same. Life has a way of bringing people together when it matters most." I think this is one of those times." They spent the night in quiet reflection, each thinking about the journey that had brought them together and the possibilities that lay ahead. The memory of her rescue, the years of longing, and the courage that had driven her to seek him out now converged in a sense of hope and anticipation. They both understood that the days ahead would be filled with learning, patience, and the gradual building of trust. But for the first time, they faced the future with the certainty that they had found something rare and meaningful. As the night deepened, the ranch settled into silence, broken only by the occasional sound of an animal or the rustle of the wind through the grass. Naomi lay awake for some time, thinking of Jack, of the life-changing events that had brought her to this moment, and of the hope that filled her heart. Jack, in his own space, reflected on the same thoughts, recognizing that their connection was a gift, one that required care, attention, and a willingness to embrace the unknown together. The reunion was complete, and with it came the realization that their story was only just beginning. Naomi and Jack had rediscovered each other, their lives intertwined by memory, gratitude, and an emerging bond that promised love, respect, and companionship. The days ahead would be filled with challenges and discoveries, but both felt a quiet confidence that they were exactly where they were meant to be together, ready to face whatever life had in store. The days after Naomi's reunion with Jack were filled with a quiet joy, but also with new challenges. Life on the ranch was not simple, and their connection, though strong, had to grow amid the responsibilities and realities of everyday life. Naomi awoke each morning to the sounds of roosters crowing and the soft stirrings of the animals in the barn. The fresh air carried the scent of hay and earth, and the sunlight painted golden lines across the fields. She moved with purpose, learning the rhythms of ranch life, determined to prove herself not only as someone Jack could trust, but as a capable partner in this shared space. Jack observed her with quiet admiration. Naomi was learning quickly, her confidence and courage evident in the way she handled the horses, carried water, and tended to the smaller tasks around the ranch. Yet, he knew it was not enough for them to share work alone. Life beyond the ranch had its own expectations, and their growing bond would inevitably face questions and opinions from others. The local townspeople were curious about Naomi, the young woman who had traveled from her community to find the cowboy who had once saved her life. Some viewed her arrival with genuine interest and kindness, but others were wary, influenced by old prejudices and misunderstandings. One morning, as Naomi helped Jack mend a fence along the northern boundary of the ranch, she noticed the wary glances of a few townspeople passing by on horseback. Their whispers reached her ears, and she felt a sudden tension. Jack noticed her unease and placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Don't worry about them," he said gently. "They don't understand, but that doesn't matter. What matters is what we know, what we feel, and what we're building together." Naomi nodded, drawing strength from his words. She realized that courage was not only about facing physical danger, it was also about facing judgment, skepticism, and the unknown with dignity and calm. Despite the occasional whispers, Naomi and Jack continued their days together. They learned from each other, sharing knowledge and skills. Naomi taught Jack about aspects of Apache life, the ways of the land, the respect for nature, and the lessons of patience and observation. Jack, in turn, guided her in managing the ranch, tending to livestock, and understanding the responsibilities that came with ownership of the land. Their partnership became a blend of mutual learning and respect, each day strengthening the bond that had begun years ago when their paths first crossed. Yet, not everything was easy. One afternoon, as a storm approached from the west, the tension between past expectations and present realities surfaced. The sky darkened, and the wind began to pick up, rustling the trees and sending clouds racing across the plains. Naomi noticed that Jack seemed tense, his brow furrowed as he assessed the approaching storm. "We need to secure the animals and the equipment," he said. "This wind could cause serious damage if we're not careful." Naomi nodded, rolling up her sleeves, ready to help. They moved quickly, tying down equipment, guiding animals to safer areas and reinforcing the fences. During the storm, as rain began to fall in heavy sheets, Naomi and Jack found shelter in the barn. The sound of rain pounding on the roof was deafening, and thunder rumbled across the distant hills. Naomi shivered slightly, though it was not only the cold that affected her, it was the awareness of how quickly life could change, how fragile security could be, and how much they depended on each other. Jack noticed her unease and handed her a blanket. "It's okay," he said. "We've handled worse together. You're stronger than you know." Naomi wrapped the blanket around her shoulders, feeling warmth not just from the fabric but from his words and the steady presence beside her. When the storm finally passed, the ranch bore some signs of minor damage. Branches had fallen, a few fences were bent, and the fields were muddy. Jack and Naomi worked together throughout the afternoon, repairing fences and clearing debris. As they labored side by side, a sense of shared accomplishment filled the air. They laughed over small mishaps, celebrated minor victories, and grew more confident in their ability to handle challenges as a team. The experience became another thread in the fabric of their growing bond, reinforcing the idea that life's difficulties could be faced more effectively together than alone. As the weeks passed, Naomi began to integrate more with Jack's life beyond the ranch. They visited the nearby town occasionally, purchasing supplies, exchanging greetings with neighbors, and learning to navigate the social dynamics of the community. Naomi noticed both curiosity and skepticism in the townspeople's eyes. Some whispered about the unconventional nature of their relationship, while others quietly admired Naomi's strength and the respect she commanded through her actions. Jack, ever patient, guided her through these interactions, reminding her that perception often followed courage and consistency rather than words. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow across the fields, Naomi and Jack sat on the porch of the ranch house. A gentle breeze carried the scent of fresh grass, and the distant calls of birds settling in for the night filled the air. Naomi spoke quietly, her thoughts reflecting on the journey they had undertaken together. "Jack," she said, "I never imagined life could be like this. I've faced so many challenges, and yet with you I feel calm, safe. Like I can face anything." Jack reached for her hand, his touch firm but gentle. "That's because we face it together," he replied. "You've shown courage and patience. You've earned every bit of respect and trust. I'm proud of you, Naomi." The conversation turned to the future. Naomi spoke of her hopes to continue learning, to grow alongside Jack, and to build a life rooted in shared values and respect. She wanted to show that love and partnership were about more than words. They were about actions, understanding, and commitment. Jack listened carefully, his admiration deepening. He realized that their connection was not fleeting but grounded in experience, shared challenges, and mutual recognition of each other's strengths. Their relationship had evolved beyond gratitude and affection. It was becoming a true partnership. However, challenges continued to test them. One afternoon, while visiting the town for supplies, Naomi overheard some villagers discussing her presence with suspicion. "She's from another community," one whispered. "Why would she come here? Does she think she belongs?" Naomi's heart sank, but she remembered Jack's earlier words. She took a deep breath, choosing not to react with anger or hurt. Instead, she focused on the strength she had developed over the years, the lessons of patience and resilience that had guided her through earlier struggles. She knew that proving herself through actions rather than words would be the most powerful response. Back at the ranch, Naomi and Jack discussed the encounter calmly. "Some people will always judge without understanding," Jack said, "but they don't define us. Our work, our respect for each other, and our actions show what truly matters." Naomi nodded, appreciating his perspective. They made a plan to continue demonstrating their partnership through their work, their dedication, and their integrity. This became another lesson in their journey together. Challenges were inevitable, but they could be faced with patience, courage, and unity. As the months continued, Nayeli became more comfortable in her role at the ranch and in the community. She earned respect not through confrontation but through consistency, kindness, and competence. Jack remained a steady presence, encouraging her, supporting her, and learning from her in return. Their bond deepened as they navigated each day together, finding joy in small victories and comfort in shared routines. The memory of the rescue that had brought them together became a foundation for something much greater, a partnership rooted in trust, admiration, and genuine affection. One quiet evening, Nayeli and Jack walked along the edge of the ranch, the horizon glowing with the colors of sunset. Nayeli spoke softly, her voice filled with thoughtfulness. "Jack, I came here to thank you, but I think I've found something much more important. I feel like what we have is rare. I want to be part of your life, not just as someone you helped, but as someone who can walk beside you." Jack stopped and looked at her, his eyes reflecting the deep respect and care he felt. "Nayeli," he said, "I feel the same. You've shown courage, wisdom, and kindness. I want us to continue this journey together, to face life's challenges side by side." The conversation ended with a quiet understanding. They did not rush. They did not make grand declarations, but the bond between them had grown stronger. Life on the ranch, the interactions with the community, and the challenges they faced had become opportunities to deepen their connection. Nayeli and Jack understood that love and partnership were built over time, through shared experiences, patience, and mutual respect. They were ready to face whatever challenges might come, confident in the strength they had built together. That night, as they sat outside watching the stars, a sense of peace settled over them. Nayeli felt a deep gratitude for the journey that had brought her to this place, to this man, and to this moment. Jack felt a quiet pride and admiration, realizing that the bond they shared was extraordinary in its simplicity and depth. Together, they embraced the challenges of life, knowing that their partnership was a source of strength, resilience, and hope. The past, with its trials and triumphs, had led them to this point, and the future promised growth, understanding, and the possibility of a lasting, meaningful connection. The weeks that followed were marked by a quiet but deepening closeness between Nayeli and Jack. Life on the ranch, with its early mornings, hard work, and occasional setbacks, had become a shared rhythm for them. Every sunrise brought the familiar scent of earth and horses, the warmth of labor under the sun, and the satisfaction of accomplishment together. Nayeli had grown into her role, not just as someone Jack admired, but as a capable partner whose presence strengthened the ranch and the life they were building. Jack, too, felt the steady pull of connection and trust. He watched her skillfully guide the horses, handle the livestock, and manage the daily tasks with patience and care. But beyond that, he noticed the compassion she carried in her words, the understanding she offered to others, and the quiet confidence that inspired not only him but the people around her. Each day reinforced the sense that this was more than a partnership born of gratitude. It was a bond of mutual respect, understanding, and love slowly taking root. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the distant hills, painting the sky in shades of crimson and gold, Nayeli and Jack walked together along the ridge overlooking the plains. The wind carried the sweet scent of wild grass, and the soft rustle of leaves punctuated their conversation. They spoke of ordinary things, plans for the coming harvest, the health of the animals, and the repairs needed on the fences. But even these simple topics carried a deeper meaning. Every shared observation, every thoughtful word, strengthened the unspoken understanding between them. "I never imagined life could be like this," Nayeli said softly, her eyes reflecting the colors of the sunset. I've faced so many challenges, and yet here I am, feeling safe and valued in ways I never expected. Jack reached for her hand, holding it firmly yet gently. "Nay, Ellie," he said, "you've earned every bit of respect and admiration. I've seen your courage, your patience, and your strength. I've watched you grow, and I'm proud of the person you've become." Her heart swelled at his words, and for the first time in years she felt that her journey, the fear, the uncertainty, and the long wait, had led to a moment of true fulfillment. As twilight deepened, they found themselves by a small clearing where the grass bent gently in the breeze. Naomi stopped, turning to face Jack fully. "Jack, there's something I need to tell you," she said, her voice trembling slightly with emotion. "I didn't just come here to thank you for saving my life. I came because I feel something more, something I can't ignore. I want to be part of your life, not just as a friend, but as someone who walks beside you in every way." Jack's gaze softened, and he felt a lump rise in his throat. He had suspected this feeling for some time, yet hearing her say it aloud made the moment real. "Nay, Ellie," he said carefully, choosing each word with intention, "I've felt the same way for a long time. From the moment I saw you again, I realized that what we share is rare. You've shown courage, wisdom, and kindness in every step we've taken together. I want us to continue this journey, not just as friends or companions, but as partners in life." Naomi's eyes filled with tears, but they were tears of joy and relief. The long wait, the uncertainty, and the fears that had shadowed her heart melted away in the warmth of his words. That evening, they returned to the ranch house, where a small fire crackled in the hearth. They spoke late into the night, sharing dreams and hopes for the future. Naomi expressed her desire to build a life together rooted in trust, respect, and shared experiences. Jack spoke of his hopes for a partnership that would honor both of their strengths and values. They laughed, reminisced, and made plans for the days to come, knowing that their lives would now be intertwined in ways neither could have imagined before their reunion. The next morning, as the sun rose over the plains, Naomi and Jack took a walk to the spot where he had first found her so many years ago. The memories of fear, gratitude, and courage filled the space between them. Naomi knelt briefly by the rocks where she had struggled, reflecting on the journey from that day to this one. "I never thought I'd be standing here again," she said softly, "but now I'm not afraid. I'm ready to face life as long as we face it together." Jack knelt beside her, placing a comforting hand over hers. "Neither of us can change the past," he said, "but we can build the future, and I can't imagine doing it with anyone but you." Their bond grew stronger as the weeks passed. They worked side by side on the ranch, faced challenges together, and shared small joys, feeding the animals, repairing fences, and watching the sunsets. Every task became an opportunity to strengthen their partnership, every conversation a chance to deepen their understanding of one another. Naomi's courage and resourcefulness complemented Jack's experience and patience, creating a balance that allowed them to thrive both individually and together. The townspeople gradually noticed the harmony between them. Naomi's presence, initially met with curiosity and skepticism, now inspired admiration. They saw the quiet strength she brought to the ranch, the respect she showed to everyone she encountered, and the partnership she shared with Jack. Some who had doubted the bond they shared began to understand that it was built on more than appearances. It was built on trust, courage, and genuine care for one another. One evening, as the stars began to shimmer in the clear night sky, Naomi spoke again of her feelings. "Jack," she said, "I've thought a lot about what comes next. I want to make sure that we face the future together openly and honestly. I want us to share everything, the good days and the hard ones." Jack nodded, his gaze steady and full of warmth. "Naomi, I feel the same. Life is unpredictable, but I know that with you I can face anything. You've changed my life in ways I never imagined, and I want to keep building this life with you." That night, as they sat together by the fire, they made a quiet commitment to each other. It was not marked by grand gestures or promises of perfection, but by the mutual recognition of what they had already built and the intention to nurture it moving forward. They understood that love was not only about words, but about actions, respect, and consistent care for one another. They were ready to face the future together, strengthened by the challenges they had overcome and the trust they had cultivated. In the following weeks, their partnership blossomed further. Naomi learned more about the intricacies of ranch life, guiding livestock, tending crops, and managing tasks with precision. Jack supported her every step of the way, offering guidance without diminishing her independence. They celebrated small victories together: the repair of a broken fence, the successful care of a sick animal, the beauty of a clear sunrise over the plains. Every shared experience strengthened the bond they now cherished deeply. Finally, the day came when Naomi felt ready to express the final step of her commitment. She approached Jack in the quiet of the morning, her heart racing, the sun casting a warm glow over the fields. "Jack," she said, her voice steady with certainty, "do you remember me? I'm the Apache girl you saved, and I've come to be your wife." Jack looked at her, a mixture of surprise, joy, and deep emotion washing over him. He reached for her hands, holding them gently but firmly. "Naomi," he said, his voice thick with feeling, "I've waited for this moment my whole life. I want nothing more than to share my life with you. Yes, I will be your husband, your partner, and your friend for all the days ahead." Tears filled Naomi's eyes as she smiled, the weight of years of longing and hope lifting from her heart. The journey that had begun with fear, danger, and uncertainty had brought her to this moment of fulfillment, trust, and love. Together, they embraced, feeling the strength of their connection, the joy of shared purpose, and the promise of a life built on mutual respect and care. Their families and community, initially hesitant, witnessed the sincerity of their bond and began to accept and celebrate their union. The story of Naomi and Jack became one of courage, perseverance, and love, proof that acts of kindness, trust, and bravery could create a bond that not only survived challenges but flourished in their presence. Their marriage was not just a personal triumph, but a symbol of unity, respect, and the power of human connection across cultures and experiences. And so, Naomi and Jack began the next chapter of their lives, hand in hand, ready to face the future together. The plain stretched wide and endless before them, a canvas for their shared journey. They knew that challenges would come, but they faced them with courage, patience, and the confidence that love, trust, and partnership could overcome any obstacle. From the day of the rescue to this moment of commitment, their story had grown into something extraordinary, an enduring tale of gratitude, courage, and the power of human connection.